In this podcast episode, Greg Mushen shares his deep enthusiasm for walking and how it has played a transformative role in his own health journey while shedding light on compelling scientific findings about the benefits of habitual walking. Greg's exploration began with a curiosity about why subsistence populations, such as the Amish and indigenous groups like the Tsimane in South America, are largely spared from many chronic diseases prevalent in Western societies, despite having diets that on paper might seem suboptimal. His investigation into their lifestyles revealed a striking consistency. They walk extensively every day, often taking upwards of 18,000 steps, and that high level of daily movement correlates strongly with outstanding cardiovascular health and remarkably low rates of hypertension, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes. Greg describes walking as an irreplaceable foundation for overall health. While he agrees that walking alone is not a panacea, physical strength through resistance training and occasional higher-intensity aerobic efforts are crucial. He emphasizes that walking serves as a unique base that supports many physiological mechanisms. One of the most compelling benefits is the enhancement of lipid and glucose clearance from the bloodstream. He highlights a notable study involving type 2 diabetics, which demonstrated that a 50-minute walk after a meal surpassed the glucose-lowering effects of metformin, a commonly prescribed diabetes medication. This impressive finding reveals that walking not only aids in fat loss and body composition improvements, but also exerts powerful metabolic effects. Walking activates receptors like LDL receptors, facilitating the clearance of lipids, and this process depends heavily on movement frequency, favoring consistent low-intensity activity over episodic high-intensity workouts. Furthermore, walking has a significant influence on vascular health, specifically on arterial stiffness and endothelial function. Greg explains that while arterial stiffening was historically viewed as an inevitable byproduct of aging, recent research has uncovered what is termed the supernova phenotype, describing a subset of people who maintain exceptionally supple arteries well into older age. Studies on populations such as the Tsimane have found their arterial stiffness to be as low as ultramarathon runners, a notable feat given their minimal engagement in typical Western forms of exercise. This vascular pliability, paired with their extraordinarily low coronary artery calcium, an indicator of arterial plaque and heart disease risk, underlines the protective effects of constant movement through walking. Greg's personal journey began not solely from a desire for longevity, but rather from a practical goal of effective fat loss. Inspired by a friend who served as a coach, Greg was encouraged to target a substantial daily step count, eventually aiming for around 17,000 steps daily. This extensive daily walking complemented a balanced approach that included resistance training, increased protein intake, and a modest caloric deficit. He notes that while caloric restriction was the most significant driver of his fat loss, the addition of high step counts allowed for better adherence, improved mood, and a gentler deficit through movement rather than calorie cutting alone. Walking's low fatigue and ease of incorporation contrasted with high-intensity running, which would be unsustainable on a daily basis. Greg recounts noticing visible changes in body composition within days of maintaining his walking routine and experiencing not just aesthetic improvements, but also enhanced blood work, including improved lipid profiles, higher testosterone levels, and notably reduced visceral fat. Beyond the numbers, walking contributed to appetite regulation and mental well-being, often diminishing cravings and providing a welcome alternative to sedentary habits like television watching. Throughout the conversation, Greg and the host reflect on how walking fits within a larger framework of health behaviors. There is agreement on the critical role of resistance training, especially for maintaining muscle mass, which is vital for metabolic health and preventing frailty, particularly in aging populations. However, walking remains foundational, primarily due to its effects on lipid clearance, fat oxidation, and vascular health, which high-intensity efforts do not fully replicate. A striking epidemiological study is cited, correlating increases in daily step counts with substantial reductions in all-cause mortality. Moving from 4,000 steps to 8,000 yielded a near 50% drop in mortality risk and increasing further to 12,000 steps enhanced that reduction even more. This data supports the idea that movement patterns among populations are key to their health profiles and longevity. The podcast also touches on practical strategies to integrate walking into busy lifestyles, including breaking up sitting time by walking 5 to 10 minutes every hour, using standing desks equipped with walking pads, and incorporating brief walks after meals. These incremental changes collectively add substantial step counts, making walking an approachable and sustainable habit for most people. In addition to movement, Greg underscored the importance of dietary fiber, drawing from comparisons across subsistence populations. Some groups, such as the Tsimane and Hadza, consume very high amounts of fiber, sometimes exceeding 70 to 80 grams per day, which correlates with positive gut microbiome function and systemic health benefits. Fiber's fermentable fraction feeds beneficial gut bacteria, producing short-chain fatty acids that support gut barrier integrity, regulate immune responses, and enhance insulin sensitivity. Greg explains how insufficient fiber prompts the body to degrade its own mucin lining to sustain gut bacteria, leading to increased permeability, leaky gut, inflammation, and potentially contributing to metabolic disease. Furthermore, specific fibers assist in cholesterol clearance, adding another cardiovascular protective layer. For those looking to increase fiber intake, Greg recommends incorporating resistant starches from foods such as green bananas, cooled potatoes or rice, and beans, though cautioning to ramp up slowly to avoid gastrointestinal discomfort. Both Greg and the host share personal insights about their genetic predispositions to cardiovascular issues, underscoring the value of understanding one's genetic blueprint to tailor lifestyle choices. Greg mentions using direct-to-consumer genetic testing platforms combined with tools like Genetic Genie to analyze data for actionable insights related to lipid metabolism and methylation pathways. Identifying variants such as ApoE4 and methylation-related genes helped him adjust nutrient intakes, like adopting methylated B vitamins, to improve biomarkers and optimize well-being. They further discuss the complexities of lipid metabolism in different populations and the interplay between genetics and diet, particularly among South Asians who face elevated cardiovascular risks, partially due to genetic variants affecting lipid clearance and metabolism. This personalized approach highlights how walking and diet, when combined with genetic knowledge, can maximize health outcomes. Greg passionately advocates for the often overlooked role of potassium in maintaining vascular health. He calls potassium the infrastructure that keeps arteries and veins supple and supports optimal cellular electrical gradients. Modern diets, skewed heavily towards sodium and low in potassium, contribute to high blood pressure and arterial stiffening. Greg strives to consume 6 to 7 grams of potassium daily, focusing on natural food sources like fruits, vegetables, avocados, beans, and coconut water. He advises caution in those with kidney problems or certain medications, but suggests that a potassium-rich diet is a simple, natural way to preserve cardiovascular health over time.